welcome. Hi, Simply Made by Hand. Welcome to our live garden Q&A. And I'm also going to talk about the highs and lows of our 2024 garden. And I'm going to get started here in just a second. Just going to wait for some people to get on. Hello, welcome. Thanks everyone for being here. So pretty much the way this is going to work is you can leave any questions in the chat and I will get to them when I see them. As well as I'm going to discuss some of the highs and lows of our 2024 garden so far. So make sure you guys let us know in the chat any questions that you have while we're going. And then pretty much I'm just going to start talking about what's going on in our garden, some highs and lows that we've had this year. Because honestly, y'all, I have not met anyone so far that had a perfect gardening year. Even people who've been gardening for 20, 30 years all say the same thing, that they never have a perfect gardening year. They always do really well with some things and then really struggle with others. So pretty much I'm just going to discuss what our struggles have been this year, and I'm also going to discuss what we did really, really well with this year. And I would be honest, every year it seems to be different. Like one year something will be doing well, and then the next year it won't, but the thing that wasn't doing well last year will be doing well this year. So that just, yeah, always a new challenge. Always, definitely. Always a different challenge. So I'm just going to jump right in and start talking about I'm going to start with our lows, and then I'll discuss some of our highs. So our lows, there's been a good amount of them this year so we started our planting. We wanted to do more of our own like seed starting like inside. So most of the time we like to start outside because it's just easier. You don't have to worry about the lighting, the heating, all that. But we were missing out on earlier harvest because of it. So we wanted to start more seeds inside. But we thought that putting them on a windowsill and moving them around so they were evenly being lit was going to be enough. It was not. Most of our seedlings were leggy and weak looking. So we did wind up transplanting them on time. We didn't do it early or late or anything. But we did lose some of them, more than I expected to lose. But we saved, I would say, we didn't lose too many. It was just like we could have probably saved more if they had been stronger to go out. So I think the hardening off process, we lost more than we probably should have, but not enough to ruin our garden for the year at all. So, but it did wind up prolonging our harvest anyway, because those plants spent a lot of time gaining back their strength than focusing on just getting bigger and then producing fruit. So one of those was like our tomatoes. They were leggy and it took them a while to get their strength back. And even now, so we had the seed starting, and then we had the flood in the spring that happened that completely covered our garden in water. Is that normally a problem with seed trays? What do you mean? Lighting, heating? It's normally a problem. While I wait for her to get back to me, we had that flood and it covered our garden in about 2 or 3 feet of water. So everything was underwater because most of our stuff is in ground and the stuff that's in beds is only up like a foot. So most of our stuff was underwater. And I believe what happened is that when you overwater crops, what can happen is you can have a nutrient deficiency in your garden. And I don't think that we addressed that problem properly. So, hello. Hi. Let me see. I'm having trouble seeing the chat. So if I'm not saying your name when you say hello to me, that's why, because I can't see it. I just seen that someone said hello. And with the flooding, it just I think it just wiped out the nutrients. And we did not address that problem. I don't think properly. So I think at that point, because we've been dealing with our tomatoes not fruiting enough, not as much as they should be, I should say. We have about 40 plants and we only get a few tomatoes at a time. And that's when I'm harvesting like once or twice a week. So we're not getting enough off of these plants. They're not even flowering enough. So we're addressing that problem now. And if this works, I will share it with you. I'm probably going to share what I'm doing anyway, just in case other people are having problems, because I'm using a spray, an organic spray right now, that is supposed to help tomatoes and peppers boost production. And I'm going to share it probably anyway, but I think that this is going to fix our problem. Now, the one plant, it's right here. I don't know. I don't think you guys can see it, but it's over there. Has, after doing the spray, it has about, I would say, 30 or more flowers on it already. And I've only done one dose of the spray, and you're supposed to do 2. So I'm about to do the second one in a few days, and that's probably when I'll do my video. But that looks way better. Everything that I sprayed looks way better. And I think that that was the problem. Maybe. We're going to see. We also remulched because I don't think we put enough mulch back on. We were sort of in a rush after it flooded, and we were in a rush just to get everything mulched back over. And I think we mulched everything but didn't feed it enough. Something happened there. So we struggled with that. So the tomatoes didn't fruit. But I have to be honest, I talked to a lot of Northeast Texas gardeners, and they're all saying the same thing, that the tomatoes aren't fruiting and the pepper plants are small. And that's the same thing that we're dealing with. The tomatoes aren't fruiting, the pepper plants are too small. And it's our first year successfully growing peppers. So when I first seen that these pepper plants were too small, I thought it was just something that we did. But now I'm wondering if it's not just the environmental concerns that are going on. So, but other than that, the cucumbers have been doing amazing. And that's another thing, is that the lost my train of thought there for a second, was that Northeast Texas gardeners were also saying the same thing that I'm saying now, is that the cucumbers did really, really well. Like super well. And ours are doing amazing. We have tons and tons of cucumbers. By the way, I know a lot of you have requested a pickle recipe. That will be coming out, I think, early next week. So just stay tuned for that. So a couple other things we struggled with was the squash and zucchini. So usually, and this is what I was talking about how plants, some plants you do well with one year and then the next they're terrible. Like last year, we had so much zucchini, we had to preserve it. This year, haven't gotten any. And we lost a bunch of the plants. So I did replant zucchini, and that'll be coming out in our July planting video, which is going to also be coming out next week. And I planted more, and it's right here, and it's, you can't see it, but it is right there, and it's like that big now. And it's so cute and pretty. I tried putting it in a different spot, just again to deal with that maybe possible nutrient deficiency. Because if you're struggling with a nutrient deficiency in an area, it's probably best to try it somewhere else. So I put it somewhere else. It seems to be doing better. And I just replanted the squash that we lost today. So we didn't get any squash this year either, but that's not something that we normally do like great with anyway. So, but the zucchini is something that we've always done well with, and this year it just was not that great. And watermelon was another one. I don't know what happened there. They came up and the growth was stunted, it seemed like, because they stayed like this big for the longest time. But the good news is that now they're huge and they have little watermelons all over them. It was all of a sudden they just like shot out. And again, it may have been the nutrient deficiency, maybe, because we fed everything now with our homemade, we do homemade compost here. So we have like kitchen scraps, chicken house bedding, and cow stall bedding. That's what our compost is made of. And then again, I use the spray. We had blueberry plants that look sad. I sprayed them with this spray. They're already looking better. So honestly, I'm thinking deficiency. So if people are dealing with deficiency or possible deficiencies in their garden, you're definitely going to want to watch the upcoming video because I'm going to talk about that. So some of the highs of our garden this year, some positive notes, is that we don't normally grow flowers. It's just something that we've never really were interested in or really tried until I realized how many edible flowers there were. So we always grow marigolds. That's the one thing, the one flower we normally grow because of the pest control. I'm sorry if you guys hear background noise. We have neighbors and it sounds like there's a truck over there or something. So in case you hear that. We've always grown marigolds, always done well with those. We have them again this year, doing fairly well. But this year we ended up with 2 volunteer zinnia plants. I don't know how they ended up in the garden exactly. I know that someone gave me zinnia seeds from our Master Gardeners community, but I never actually brought them down to the garden and planted them. So I don't know how we ended up with 2 zinnia plants. But they have been going absolutely insane. Like they've blown up. Yes, please talk about what you do with the flowers. Okay, so this is a question that we get really, really often. So often that I actually made a video about what we did with the flowers. So the marigolds and zinnias most of the time go in our salad. So pretty much I take the heads and I take the petals off and put them in the salad. And I'm sure that there's probably benefits to this that I don't even know about, but honestly, I just like how it looks. It's so pretty. Sometimes we use marigold in tea. That tastes pretty well. I've never tried like marigold tea by itself. Usually I mix it with other herbs and flowers from our garden. So we also have chamomile that we use for tea. We have echinacea. We use that for teas and tinctures. We have calendula and we use that for salve. And then we have feverfew, which I'm going to be careful here because I don't know what I can say as far as feverfew. How about if I just say go look up what you can use feverfew for? I'm just going to say that. And then you can go research for yourself what you can use feverfew for. I think that's all the flowers we have this year. Although I would like to try, I think I now need to go get some more zinnia seeds because we ended up with 2 pink zinnias, a light pink and a dark pink. But I believe, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe zinnias are supposed to be a lot of different colors, right? Like orange maybe and yellow. What other colors can zinnias be? Someone answer me there. Another thing that we're doing really well with is sweet potatoes. I haven't actually dug under to see what they look like, but the sweet potato plants, which we have 10 grow bags, 10 of the 10-gallon grow bags full of sweet potato plants that are just everywhere. And then we have sweet potato slips growing in 3 out of the garden beds that are down here, and they've literally taken up the entire garden space. So maybe good on sweet potatoes this year. I'm hoping. If these plants all produce like the ones that we had last year produce, and it looks like they're going to because they flowered and everything, we're going to end up with a lot of sweet potatoes. Like a lot. And Dad's potatoes were a little small. He likes to plant regular potatoes. So I think he did yellow potatoes this year, and he did potato towers, and I think that they would have worked because they stayed dry. We usually have a problem with them rotting out before we can harvest them. And I think that it would have worked because they stayed really dry, except we had that flooding issue, and I think it stunted the growth of them a little bit because they were a little bit smaller than I expected them to be. And there wasn't quite as many as I think there should have been either. So that's like, I think we're going to try it again though, because I think it would have worked if it had not totally, the water totally covered the towers. So, and it was like that for a while. And then we have, we have a new addition. We have Swiss chard, and that's something new that we tried this year. I was so excited about that because I had seen what chard looks like Swiss chard looks like, and I was so excited to grow it. And we had Ruby Red and Ford Hook Giant, Both of them did really, really well. I think the Ruby Red wasn't quite as heat tolerant as the Ford Hook Giant because the Ruby Red sort of died out when it got hot, but the Ford Hook Giant is still producing. And I think honestly, because we're out of like the hottest part, I think, of the year now, so it may just survive the rest of the year here. I have seen your garden harvest. Your garden looks so beautiful. Oh, thank you. It's a family endeavor. I do the harvest videos, but everyone helps out in the garden. Everyone helps plant and weed and water. So, yep, it's a family endeavor. What else can I talk about? We did the tomatoes. Oh, another new thing. So we planted elderberries last year, I think, or the year before that. I thought it was last year. And we have berries this year. We have actual elderberries that we're going to harvest this year. I'm so excited about that. I thought it was going to take 3 years, which it definitely did not. And I'm so excited. It doesn't look like the birds have eaten too many of them either, and they're already turning purple. Did it benefit you to be a Texas Master Gardener? So the year that we actually became Texas Master Gardeners, it was a January through May class in our area. And I think that our garden suffered maybe a little bit that year, but I do think it paid off. Definitely paid off to have done those hours, even though it hurt our garden a little bit. The year that we took the class, because we weren't really around to do the spring planting and all that, it definitely benefited us here for sure, because I didn't have to do quite as much research because I already knew it. What are elderberries good for? So elderberries, again, I'm gonna not say too much here. I think you should look it up. But elderberries can be used in pies and in syrups. But the one thing that you do need to know is that uncooked elderberries are poisonous. I think the stems and leaves are as well. But I know that the berries are poisonous not cooked. So make sure that you cook your elderberries before using them. So I think that that's why they sell them. Like, I think that's why that people sell like elderberry syrup and like canned elderberry. I guess that's still really elderberry syrup, and not selling you like just raw elderberry because it's technically poisonous. So, oh, I thought there was baby bird in here. I heard a baby bird. I thought it was in here in the garden, and it wasn't. It's over there. We have little baby birds all the way over there in their little area. Sorry if like you hear a rooster crow too, and it's like totally, you can't hear me at all. We have chickens wandering around. So I would like to ask a question to people who are on. If, for those of you who have chickens and a garden, do you let your chickens in the garden at any time? And if you do, how do you keep them from eating everything in your garden and not just the weeds or digging it up with their feet? Okay, so I'll give you guys a couple minutes to answer that one. Because I've done, like, the chickens have gotten in the garden before, and they just tore up everything. Like, I didn't let them in, but they got in and they tore up everything in like 10 minutes. I like the chicken noise. Oh, that's not even a chicken. That's a duckling. They sound so similar though. There's a little ducklings sitting over here cheeping at me. Unless you heard a rooster crow, then that was a chicken. So with the chickens in the garden, I don't know. I think some people said that they use them for weed control. I don't know how, because they just tear everything up. Now we have used geese and ducks for weed control, and that's worked, as long as we supervise and we feed them weeds as babies first before letting them in the garden, because they don't actually like dig with their feet. The problem with chickens is they dig everything up with their feet, and then they dig up your plants and your seeds. So how do you stop them from doing that? Because like the ducks and geese don't do that. So if I feed them weeds as babies and then I let them in here, all they eat is the weeds, and they might walk over stuff, but they barely, like, a plant being walked over doesn't usually kill it. I don't know about adult geese, by the way. I just use baby geese. Adult geese may crush plants, especially smaller ones. So I don't know. I was just thinking, like, It would be nice to let the chickens in the garden and do some weed control, but I don't know if that's a good idea. I heard some people do it, but I don't know. When the chickens get in here, they just tear everything up. You don't know a lot about chickens? Okay. I'm sure that there's someone on that does. I can't even see how many people are on right now. So bright out here. So, and another thing, I have another question. We have pole beans, and this was another one of the lows of our garden this year. I think my theory is that the birds have been eating the beans, possibly, because we've barely gotten any. And then they all of a sudden died, but that happened like way after. So I think the dying had to do with the malnutrition, probably. Because you can starve plants to death, right? Like, who knew that? Like, a lot of people are just like, water, light, plant your seeds, and it'll grow. But that's not quite true. You can actually starve your plants to death by giving them soil that doesn't have the nutrients that they need. So definitely be careful when buying bag soil, because that stuff cannot be good for your garden sometimes. We make our own soil now, so it's not a big deal, but it's like a lot of times that stuff can just not be good at all. There have been a lot more birds this year, even in the middle of the night. Yeah, and that just might be the thing. It's like I expected them to like eat the elderberries and stuff, but I'm pretty sure I seen them on the trellis with the beans. So I'm thinking that they were eating the beans. Possibly. But I expected them to like eat the elderberries and stuff. You've also heard a lot of birds at night? Okay, it's interesting. I feel like I need to listen now to see if there's birds at night, because I don't pay enough attention to that. I have seen a lot of birds in our field over here, hanging out with our ducks. I know what that sounds like, but don't worry, our ducks have not gotten sick. Our ducks don't really have like food or anything over there either. They free range, so they don't really eat feed and stuff that wild birds would be sharing with them. So, So does anyone have any highs or lows that they want to share from their gardening experiences this year? Just a thought. Someone may want to share a little bit. If you figured out why you had a low this year, you could also share that. I'm going to definitely keep you all posted, though, with our stuff. I think everything just looks so much better. After feeding everything, getting everything remulched, and just spending a lot of time down there, the boys spent so much time. Because they went in there, they weeded everything, they compost everything, and they mulched everything. Because we were really concerned that a lot of our plants were going to die. But everything now is looking so much better. All of your herbs are looking very healthy. Yeah. Yeah, our herbs haven't looked. They've been good. The herbs have been good. We haven't had, I don't think, any really struggles with that. Most of it's perennials. So it's like it pretty much takes care of itself. You've been doing a garden in a small pool. That's a great idea. I've seen a lot of people doing that. A lot of people do gardens in pools. I mean, there's so many things. I know someone who does. They have strawberries growing in there in an old bathtub, and I think that's just cool. Like, if you can just repurpose things for stuff like that, I think it's awesome. Herbs are not hard to grow. It depends on what herbs you're talking about. Some herbs can be hard to grow. Some are not. But like I said, most of ours are perennials and self-care. Pretty much with perennial herbs, unless they need any kind of special care, you can pretty much just like chop them down when they die in the fall, and then they'll come back in the spring. My tomatoes took over. That can happen. That can happen so easily. That happens to us a lot because, like, I don't know, what are you supposed to prune them? Like once every other week or once a week? Who has time for that? Who has time to prune tomatoes, especially with how many tomatoes we have? You cannot prune that many tomatoes ever. So, will anyone else's tomatoes take over their garden this year? You can also try building a decent cage. That helps, or getting a decent cage. Although it's really hard to buy a decent cage. I haven't seen any decent cages that you can buy for your tomatoes. Only ones that you can make. But tomatoes can overgrow so easily. But you know what? They do fine most of the time. Most of the time if they overgrow, they do fine. You just have to be careful that they don't get like diseased or anything once they overgrow. Because that can happen too. That can happen because if the leaves touch the soil, they can easily contract something. So, but so far, no diseases. Just sort of our garden has just like been mostly stunted growth and browning of the leaves, and then some deaths, but not too many. I have to say we did lose a lot less this year. Like scale wise, our garden's way bigger this year than it ever has been. And I would have to say, like percentage wise, we lost less than we normally do. And we got a lot more. So that's good. At least we're improving. And I think that's all anybody can ever do is just keep improving on their garden. Your garden will never look or be perfect. And I think that's important to realize when gardening because so many gardeners quit. And gardening is therapeutic. So I think people need to be doing more of it. As well as chicken keeping. Some people have said chicken keeping is therapeutic. I don't know. Some of my chickens are nice and sweet, and some of them come up and let me pet them and stuff. So that's sweet. So does anyone have any questions? I haven't seen a lot of questions. I still can't see. Oh, okay, there we go. So does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask? I'm open to questions, any of them. We can talk about literally anything. The only thing that I might not be able to help you with is plant like specific questions. Like if you tell me like, oh, I have this plant and it's dying, what should I do? Like I may or may not be able to help you there depending on what plant it is. But if you have any like general gardening questions or anything like that, I'm here to take them. I also think that if you're a beginner gardener, try and stick to growing like instead of like just jumping in, and let's just use tomatoes as an example because it's the first thing on my mind right now. Instead of trying to grow like 5 different varieties of tomatoes, pick 1 or 2 and try to grow those. Okay, so if you're a beginner, try and stick to growing a small amount of things and focus on getting that down and add on to your garden. Okay, so add on every year, make it bigger, make it better, add more plants. Because like this year, we're growing 1 variety of sweet potatoes. And we grew 1 variety, I think, last year too. I don't remember what varieties we had last year. We usually take what we get from the Azure Standard Fruit and Veggie variety box and we grow slips off of them. Now, I know this year, all the ones that we took to grow for slips were all purple sweet potatoes. All of them. Because I wound up cutting them in half and stuff later, and they were purple, all of them. So that's gonna be pretty cool to have purple sweet potatoes. And then like with zucchini, we used to only grow 1 variety. We'd always grow Black Beauty. Every year we grew Black Beauty zucchini. And now this year we tried gray zucchini, but I haven't gotten any yet. So we'll have to see what that's like. Never had it. And then like marigolds, we've always grown French marigolds. This year we added in some African marigolds. And I'm actually pretty impressed. The size of them is much bigger than the French. And they seem to be flowering just as well. So, I don't know. Maybe they're just as good. I thought some people said that maybe they only flower in spring, or they do most of flowering in spring. But I could be wrong there. We also added, I think, what else did we add this year? We added grapes this year. Those are doing well. All 4 of them are doing well. We added Brussels sprouts this year. Those did pretty well. I think it got too hot for the Brussels sprouts. I'm going to try them again in fall. We got some Brussels sprouts, but the growth sort of stunted on them, and that's probably because of the heat. So, and let me think. We added more trees and bushes last year in like the fall. fall is really your best time to plant in zone 8 here. So what zone is everybody in, if you know it? If not, you can just put your state or whatever. I'm just curious to know what zone you're in. I see we have quite a few people on, so I'll wait for everyone's responses. Let me think. Oh, we also grew celery this year, and we got a good amount of that. Again, it got hot. It got hot sooner this year, so I think we're gonna do better with those kind of crops in fall. But we did get some celery, and it was delicious. So good. And let me think. We added a lot more this year. Like I said, our garden got way bigger this year. Way bigger. So let me think. We added some new varieties of tomatoes. That was we weren't going to, and then we sort of ended up with free tomato plants, sad looking tomato plants. And those were German Johnson. Let me think. German Johnson, Purple Cherokee, and maybe Lemon Boy. Maybe. I don't remember. They weren't all tagged. So I'm not sure. I think it was German Johnson, Purple Cherokee, and Lemon Boy were the 3 varieties that we ended up with. So we sort of got those we were on a tour, tour with the Master Gardeners, and we sort of ended up with free tomato plants because they were dying and they were done with their planting for the year. So we sort of ended up with late season, free, sad-looking tomato plants. And then what else have we added this year? The squashes, we've sort of, I don't know, we just never really planted squash. Like sometimes we'd plant a squash and have a couple plants. But this year we actually planted different varieties. So I don't remember what varieties we planted in the past, but this year we planted Table Queen, which is an acorn squash, crookneck squash, which is a summer squash, and let me think. We planted crookneck squash. Oh, we planted spaghetti squash, which we love. We've just never planted it. And then we planted butternut squash, which I think we've planted in the past. Another thing we did this year, we did carrots this year. It was our first time ever doing carrots. Those were so good. So I think it's about time. Let me see. How long have I been on? Oh, there. Okay. So I think it's about time to end the stream, unless anyone has any other questions. If you want to drop them in the chat real quick. Don't worry, though. If you're watching the stream after the fact, you can leave questions in the comments. We answer all the comments. If you leave a question, we'll get back to you. So if you missed the stream and you're watching it afterwards, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you guys want to drop any questions in the chat now, I'm about to end, so you'll definitely want to do that now. Pretty much just a quick teaser of our upcoming videos, gardening videos that you'll want to be subscribed for. We have that spray that I was talking about, which is making our plants look so much better. And then I am just about done with July planting, so that'll probably be on next week. So I'm going to show you guys what we planted in July, and we're in zone 8. So even if you're around that zone, like zone 7, even 6, you could probably at least watch it and you'll know, okay, this is what's coming up for me. Actually, we're doing late summer planting, so maybe not. I guess it would depend. You'll have to see. Look at some charts. But just a warning, a lot of people have been saying that the Farmer's Almanac is wrong this year. And I did not use them this year. I use them every year for planting, but this year I did not because of people were saying that, and I disagreed with the dates as well. So I talked to Master Gardeners. They all disagreed with the dates. We all use different charts this year. So go ahead, log off. Thanks you all for joining. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment if you're watching the stream afterwards and you wanted to ask a question. Please feel free to do that. Even leave your thoughts. If you guys have any video suggestions, live suggestions, drop them in the comments. We'll see y'all soon.